Hello and welcome to Chatterbox, the podcast where we speak to different artists about their creative odysseys, who they are, what they do, how they do it, where they do it, why they do it, but most importantly, how they are navigating their craft in the business world while trying to monetize it. In today's episode, which is titled Laughter in Times of Pestilence, we're extremely privileged to have someone that I like to call enigmatic. There are very many words that might describe this lady because she does it all. She's a singer, she's an actor, she's an activist, she's a model, she's an interior decorator and designer, she's a stand-up comic, she's a social justice warrior. She is positivity embodied. I'm your host, Eric, and it is my great pleasure to welcome to this particular podcast, Miss Sharon Shazz Nderitu.
Hey.
Hey, how are you doing?
I'm super. How are you?
Well, thank you. I don't think I did you justice in that introduction.
No, I'm smart. That introduction was plenty.
I don't think so.
I'm like,
because
who is
you're
he talking
so
about?
many
Where is
things.
she? Bring her on.
You're so many things. I just found out that you're also a singer.
Yes, I am.
Which is
I am.
mind-blowing because a lot of times, every time I meet you, I get to know something different about you.
Oh, that's good.
So
Yeah.
this just blew me away. This was just a few minutes ago. And I think we've known each other for what, 3 years now? 2 years.
So here's the thing. I know you.
Yes.
I've known you like when I discovered who you are because I was stalking you on Instagram for a very long time. And no, true. And
Yeah.
then you remember when you gave me your handle, I was like, wait, I know this guy. This is you?
This is me.
It's just that you never put your face on the Instagram.
I
So
do not.
I feel like I've known you a long time, and that sounds creepy, but I'm sticking with that answer.
I love it.
I have been following your
I love it. I think for this particular podcast, as I said, it's titled Pestilence, Laughter in Times of Pestilence. We're going to focus on you as a stand-up comic because that's when we met.
Yes.
Without the stalking, we met. and I think I just want to start by asking,
Yeah.
how did you get into stand-up comedy?
Purely, totally by mistake. Really, really. So I love stand-up comedy. I'm here
Yeah.
for all of it.
Yeah.
But so in 22 years ago, I think it's 2 years ago now, we did this. My sister and I, Annie,
Yeah.
are survivors of the Westgate terrorist attack.
Okay.
And we were invited to do this huge talk for this platform that shares stories. And that story kind of went viral. And then on the 50th anniversary of the attack, different like radio stations and TV stations invited us to come and just talk about it. And we had never actually, before that, we had never talked about it,
Okay.
publicly. And so one of the stations that we did that was on the show with Professor Hamo and Jeff Koinange.
Okay.
And so we do this thing. And of course, it's a very difficult subject.
It is.
Of course, it's quite dark, it's quite heavy. And what I didn't realize until after was that so Annie, who's my sister, who I think is quite a serious person.
She is.
For the most part. But this is just in public, by the way, guys. Don't be fooled. So she was quite serious about it. And I just found that the mood was so heavy. And I just started naturally just trying to say funny things. Kind of just to make
Lighten
things a
the
little
mood.
interesting. But also because Jeff Koinange is quite a character. And I hadn't met him like this before.
Yeah.
And I was surprised that he really was this sort of verbose in person. And I loved it and I was playing with it. Anyway, at the very end, one of the producers who we discovered is Emmanuel.
Yes.
Came to me later and he's like, oh, that was so good. Thank you for coming. You should think about getting into stand-up comedy. And I always joke about it, but it's true. That was such low-hanging fruit. Like if there's something that I'm kind of maybe sort of interested in, if you suggest that I should do it, you don't have to convince me. You don't have to, send me PowerPoint presentations and things. So that was it.
I think that's beautiful because for me, I was pushed into stand-up comedy because my girlfriend just got fed up of hearing my jokes. She was just like, enough, go on stage, please,
Good girl.
just go. And I was like, does that mean I'm good? No.
Yeah.
I think the one thing that people never really, especially comics, people don't know this, but I also do stand-up comedy.
I love it.
That people don't know or that I do stand-up? Okay, fine.
No, I love that you do it because that's how I met you.
Yes. You never forget the first time you go on stage.
Oh, Lord.
Tell us about that.
So I feel like I have two firsts, though.
Yes.
Because my first, so after I decided I was going to get in stand-up comedy and I started following Emmanuel around and stalking all the other comedians, at Blues Bar at Barclays Plaza, I would get up and do like little bits every once in a while. And I had, so my very first bit, the very first time I got on stage, I remember doing this bit that was, and it sounds hard to say this, but it was like a humorous take on surviving a terrorist attack. Yes. The reason why I'm like, oh, this is not necessarily a great thing is that the day after there was a second terrorist attack in Nairobi. So I remember it really, really, really shattered me. And I remember just thinking, maybe I shouldn't be doing this. Maybe I shouldn't be making fun of, making light of having survived that situation. And I remember having a real like crisis of, should I be doing this thing? Maybe it's an omen, because I'm also Kikuyu, I'm Kidogo superstitious. So I was like, maybe God is telling me something, And so then I did it that once and I never did it for a bunch of weeks.
Okay.
And then Brian Onjoro invited me to Gecko Cafe.
Yes.
And I got on stage and I did that bit and I didn't tell anyone I was going back because I told my sisters about it and how traumatized, and they're like, oh, okay, maybe not, So then I said, I'm just going to do it. I'm not going to tell anyone I'm going to do it. I'm not going to tell any friends to come. I'm just going to go and do this thing at Gecko. And so I did. And that was actually the night that I met you.
Really?
So that was my first time to do it in front of an audience that wasn't at Blues Bar.
You were such a natural. I thought you'd been doing it for a while, but then I was sitting.
Is that why you were heckling me?
I was not heckling.
It was a happy heckle, actually.
I was. Here's the thing, though. The crowd was very wishy-washy.
Yeah.
And I felt like no one was appreciating how much positive vibe you're putting out.
But that was the first time I decided I was going to do my Jamaica bit, and you got into it in the Jamaica bit. I was
so into it,
and I was like, I don't know who this guy is, but I'm having a one-on-one with him. We're doing this shit. I'm telling my comedy to him.
It was so good. I loved it. We were there with my girlfriend Rachel, and we were just like, how awesome is she? How awesome is she? And I went out because I'm not really super sociable. People tend to think I am, but I'm not. I am not. And
You're not
so
sociable? I couldn't have told.
I always ask her, like, can I go and talk to this person? Yeah. It's like, yeah, go make
did you
friends.
Really?
Yeah, that's how I actually make friends.
She gave you the visa to talk to me? She's like, no, she seems harmless.
She's
talk
like,
to her.
No, she's just like,
I am not going to have
to
fight this bitch.
Go make friends. Yeah, but that brings me on to the next question, which is actually, how would you describe the comedy scene in Kenya, especially stand-up comedy? It's not as robust as I'd say other places. Like the first time I performed comedy, I didn't perform comedy in Kenya. But then I want it from your perspective as a comic who has performed here for a few years now.
First of all, months, by the way.
Yes.
Really, really. I started in the middle of last year. Because I did that first time and then I didn't touch it for like until the middle of the year.
Okay.
And so I would say, so here's the thing. I feel like I'm part of like this little secret group of artists who are doing this really cool thing that some people know about and some people don't, and we can't wait for everyone to find out about it, but also we're kind of happy that it's not the thing that everyone thinks that it is.
I get that.
And also because when people think of stand-up comedy, in my opinion, they usually think of sort of the Churchills and that, which is very sort of in vernacular or in Swahili. It's a particular slant.
It's very comedy. Localized. I tend to think it's very localized. So I have friends who've been to Churchill shows and other shows, and they're like, I didn't get it.
Yeah.
I didn't get it. It's like inside jokes.
Yes.
There's inside jokes.
Yes.
So I like that you describe the scene right now as it's very small, but it's also very international, if that's what you're saying.
Absolutely.
And the issues that a lot of people are dealing with, especially, I think we touch on everything within the comedy circuit.
And I feel like we have people who, I wouldn't say that they're specialists in anything, but and that's the thing. If you want someone who does a lot of like political humor and who finds a way of, talking about the Kenyan political scene, but then also Trump and all, on an international scale, you will get that as well.
Yes.
But I feel like, honestly, if you come to one of our comedy shows, you will most likely, in fact, I think pretty much, it doesn't matter where you are in the world, you can watch the shows, watch the comedians, and in some way relate to it.
Relate to it, yes.
Which is what I would say definitely about the local comedy, stand-up comedy scene.
I think for me, especially, is that when I was setting out to do stand-up comedy, when we were doing stand-up, when I was thinking of doing stand-up comedy, this was about 2008, 2011
Oh my
or
goodness.
2012, because I've always been writing.
You have been in this for a while.
No, I've
It's
not.
like a little
I've
child.
always
That
been,
child will be in almost about to get into high school right now.
I've always been doing this for like writing and thinking about stand-up comedy. But it was always, how do I make this relatable to Kenyans, but also if someone else had that somewhere, they would still be able to relate to that. And I love that the scene here is addressing things that I would want to say are almost taboo. Things like sexuality is something that is almost taboo here.
Yeah.
Things like religion
Yeah.
is almost taboo.
Yeah.
Things like, I'd say,
Even politics. I
Even
feel like
politics.
where we have very emotional ties to our tribe and our, whichever political
yes,
party. we
whichever
support.
political leanings
Yeah.
we are. So I feel like the scene here is sort of opening that up, and it's
Yeah.
amazing because right now it's growing. There are all these new comics that are coming up.
Yeah.
We have guys like Hamaton who are coming
Yeah.
up. We have guys who
Marcus and Charity
and Duta, and all
Yeah.
these people are coming up, and it sort of broadens it.
But I feel like that's also, for me, like, it makes me laugh when I think about it, because I'm like, guys, I've only been doing this for a couple of months. So I love that I'm the veteran.
Yes, and these new guys are looking up to you.
What the hell? In what world?
That's
But anyway.
amazing. We're going to switch gears now and
Yes.
try and draw a parallel between the things that you do. So, correct me if I'm wrong. As an interior decorator and designer, you're very much informed by colors and patterns and textures and the things that you see. It's almost very visual. It's very tactile to a certain degree. And when you get your inspiration from that, how do you then, again, to use the term, switch gears when you're writing your comedy? The question is, let me just ask, where does your comedic material come from?
For sure, like 100% from just my life.
Okay.
And so one of the things when I was like, okay, I'm going to get into stand-up comedy, and I had my little kitchen council, which is pretty much my sisters.
Yes.
And kitchen cabinet, that's it, right? Kitchen cabinet, is that the
I like
expression?
kitchen council. It sounds very socialist.
It
It's
does,
like,
right?
Yeah, like, let's have this kitchen council.
Yes, I was talking to my kitchen counselor, and I was like, so I'm going to get into stand-up comedy, and God bless my family. They're like, oh, okay. But so here's the thing. I'm always like, when I travel, whatever, the funniest things happen to me just every day. Happen to me all the time. So like if I travel and something happens to me, I'm always like sending like voice notes or like really long texts with what's happened to me on the trip. And my family have been like really receptive of it. So I don't really like trying to make people laugh, or I don't think is so far from who I am. It's just that it's just been always my family, some of my friends. So that's where that comes from. Like I keep talking about, I may embellish a little, but I'm telling you, everything I tell you about on stage pretty much happened to me. And I love it because I'm like, I've got receipts. This shit happens to me.
If you've not watched Shazz on stage, please take an opportunity to come to one of our shows once the plague comes to an end.
Yes.
Or if
that is so dark.
It will. I think.
Is this the scientist in you that's saying that, or like your what do you call like a really dark part? Like not pessimistic. What's the word? Like doom and gloom people.
That's who I am every day.
I refuse to believe that.
People don't believe it, but
I'm sorry. No, I don't buy it. Not drinking that Kool-Aid.
I'm always
You create furniture all the time. You create beautiful spaces.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone who's sitting around waiting for the world to end is also, in the meantime, let me just make the world beautiful and create this. I mean, for fuck's sake, can I curse on your show?
You can curse on this show.
Okay, we're sitting in a bathtub, which I didn't think I would fit into, world. And it's a bathtub that's a sofa, somehow me and my hips and him are fitting.
I'm glad.
I'm sorry, this is
I'm
not,
glad
like, who,
you and
if
I
this world
have
is
shared,
ending,
have
for?
been in a tub together. That's
We have?
Yeah, we have. Like yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, and there's evidence out there. I do make things. I do have ideas. I do share ideas and different things that seem very light, but that is actually in preparation for the apocalypse. So it's sort of like making a very beautiful view in an arc. So it's the same thing. You make an
I'm
arc.
sorry, still not buying that Kool-Aid, not drinking it. And I also think you have like you have this like romantic. I don't know how it's romantic, but I romanticize the idea of being quite like pessimistic and doom and gloomish. But I actually, honestly, what is it? Hand on my heart. What's the expression?
Yes, hand on my heart.
Yeah, thank you. I actually think you're quite the opposite. I think that you're actually quite an optimist, if not maybe a realist. If you were gonna
realist,
maybe realist,
yeah.
but I think with like a very heavy touch of optimist.
I tend to disagree, but I'll move on to the next question because
Okay.
I'll blush now.
Black man blush.
I want us to have a look at a clip right now, and we're going to see you on stage. So this is the clip.
Only other word that's worse than that is clitoris. It's awful. You know what clitoris sounds like to me? You know, you guys follow like British politics? You know the Tories? If the Tories broke away from the Tory, they'll be called the clitoris. They really would. Like you can just hear it on the BBC. And in breaking news tonight, the leader of the rebel clitoris party today announced that they will be holding a snap election. Leaders of the party, flanked by the labia minora and the labia majora, today announced yes! Flanked by leaders of the labia minora and the labia minora, they announced that they will be holding a snap election to weed out anyone still sitting on the perineum. Crowds outside 10 Downing Street could be hard chanting, "Go hard or go home." Yes!
Now, having watched that, you speak to very many different things.
Two thumbs up.
I don't know. I'll put a few thumbs up. You speak to very many different things.
Yes.
But in a lot of instances, especially for me, I've just found this out, and I read this a while back somewhere, and someone said that if you do not recognize your privilege, then you are privileged. And as a man, I have been walking on this earth for a number of years, and I had not realized the kind of privilege that I actually possess. Even as a black man, I still possess some sort of privilege, because we tend to get certain things for granted. We just walk through life and it works. Comedy is an industry that is just coming up, but comedy as a woman in Kenya. How has that been for you?
I think there's part of me that feels like comedy as a woman and comedy and what I see my fellow comedians going through. I feel like there's part of me that says it's exactly the same thing.
Okay.
But I also feel like we are sort of judged a little differently than, say, some of the male comedians. And I normally would, like, I pick up on this, especially if I go into a space like that. So I try to attend as many shows as I can, even if I'm not getting into the stage, getting on stage. And so listening to conversations around how people talk about other comedians and things like that is very interesting to me. I like being that sort of fly on the wall. And for example, I feel like a lot of us female comedians are judged on our content in a way that I feel is a little, maybe the word is harsher, I'm not sure, than men are. So we could be at a show and George or mine or whoever will talk about fucking a giraffe and, the wrong hole and all of that stuff. And people will be like, oh my God, brilliant, awesome. Yeah. That is really, I like what you did with that, blah, 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 blah. And one of the female comedians will get up there and we'll talk about whatever it is, that also that touches on sexuality or something like that. And if you hear someone talking about, they'll be like, oh, I see you do a lot of sex jokes, and that sort of thing. And I'm like, well, I mean, yes, it was one of the things that came up in what I was saying, but also I'm also hinting at other things. I'm talking about other things. Yeah. There's nuances to the comedy.
There's no one way.
Exactly. Yeah. But I feel like we don't get that. The moment you say anything that even remotely touches on sex and sexuality, you become, you're the girl who talks about sex all the time. And I've heard that said about me and about other female comedians, and I've gone, yes, but also no.
Because it is part of what you're doing, which brings me to the other point that I was going to ask. Is comedy is very subjective. So you may perform a joke at one show and it's a hit and it's amazing, and you go to another show and you're dead in the water. There's nothing. There's silence. There's booing. I'll tell you a funny thing. I'm basically going, so when you don't do well as a comic, this is known as bombing.
Yes.
Very different from when you do well as a terrorist. But when you bomb at a show, it has such a significance on you as a comic, because comedy is very subjective. So your joke may not be horrible or your delivery may not be horrible, but the reception may be.
Yeah.
for instance, the last show that we did, the last major show that we did
Yeah.
For Punchline Comedy Club,
Yeah.
as soon as I got on stage, I was emceeing the event. Someone actually threw a bottle top at me.
Oh, what?
Yes, they did. And that already takes
What
you out.
vagabonds and ruffians are we letting into the comedy
Exactly.
shows?
We need to stop this. But that puts you in a very different space. You can't even deliver because it's very difficult you being on stage. People don't realize this, but being on stage and trying to make people laugh is a very difficult thing. And of all the things that you can do in this life,
Yeah.
the problem with stand-up comedy especially is that the response is immediate.
Yes.
You
It's
know-
the best thing and the worst
It's
thing.
the best thing and the worst thing because you'll know immediately
Yes.
if you're doing very well
Yes.
and you'll know immediately if you're not doing well. And
So
if you
true.
let that go into your head,
Oh, it's gonna eat you.
it's just horrible.
Yeah.
How do you deal with bombing? Have you ever bombed? I've never seen you bomb, Shaz. I've never seen you bomb.
I'm going to take that and go with it going forward.
Oh,
Thank
okay.
you very much. Yes. So I remember, when I was doing my little, stalking of all the comedians, I remember meeting Mamito and I was starstruck by her
Yes.
because I remember when I discovered her, I'd binge watched her. And so one of the things that she told me is that bombing is part of the process. Even before I decided I was going to get into stand-up comedy,
Yeah.
she was like, bombing is part of the process. If you're worried that you might get up there and people won't laugh and that's a problem for you, then,
Then don't do
maybe
this.
rethink this
Yeah.
thing. And so even having never tried it, I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. And then the second thing is I found that, and which is one of the gifts of doing comedy, this experience has been with the Blue Door Club, the Monday nights, is that the guys are very, it's the worst, to me, the worst people to perform comedy for are the
comedians, yes.
Because they don't give a fuck.
They don't
They're
care.
busy dissecting your shit. They're talking about you. They're they're the worst audience. But their feedback, I feel, is very honest and
Genuine,
it comes from a
yes.
great place because they tell you, hey, I've been there before,
Yeah.
that kind of thing.
Yes.
So that's one of the ways that I watched other comedians be told that. And so in a way, I felt like I had like a cheat sheet
Yes.
on how to bomb.
On how to bomb.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then also,
Yeah.
my other favorite thing, and here's one of the things I've noticed that's different about how females process bombing.
Bombing,
female
yes.
comedians and the guys do.
Yeah.
I feel like we tend to, and it's not everyone, but it just from the ones that I've spoken to, we tend to take it a lot more personally
Yeah.
on our, like, is it me? Am I not?
yeah.
We do that thing, right? We go into our heads very much. Whereas guys, they do feel it, but they have a way that they sort of joke about it. One of my favorite things to do is to sit with other comedians and they tell you about when they bombed.
Yes.
That shit is so funny.
It's very
Oh, my
funny in
goodness.
retrospect, but
Always in retrospect,
always
but
in
because
retrospect.
we have been there, we go,
Yeah.
oh my goodness. I remember, was it Hamilton who was talking about how,
Yes,
I remember
yes.
at one point he was like, the day after, I couldn't sleep, I couldn't eat, I couldn't even wank. I just found myself staring into the wall. And I'm like, yes, all of that, it's so true.
It's true. It is true. I don't know if I couldn't wank after I've gone the first time, but then like, that
Or,
has never
or
been-
then you excessively, maybe you went the other side.
Yeah, I don't know.
Da-da-da.
There's no such thing as excessive.
There's
Anyway,
no such thing.
I tend to think that with comedy and especially the scene here and what we've been trying to do as Punchline Comedy Club is culture the crowd.
Yes.
Culture the crowd.
That is hard work. I have to say, I take my hat off to you because, especially if I could just speak on it
Yes,
for a
yes,
minute,
go ahead.
especially with the sort of like the Kenyan crowd is used to either, so what we've talked about, the sort of bigger vernacular comedy shows, or improv comedy.
improv comedy.
So they're like, we got this comedy show, I got this, and
Yeah.
and sometimes we'll come to a show with that mentality,
Expectation, yes.
exactly, that we can heckle like
And contribute to
exactly
the
that they are part of the show.
Yeah.
And here's the thing: it's not that they're not, but the interaction's a little bit different.
very different.
I tell you the jokes,
Yeah,
and
you listen.
your feedback is in recognition and
yes.
laughter and that sort of thing. And I feel like it's just one of those things that it's just a learned thing.
Yeah.
With time, we will have the critical mass that understands how this
understands
works.
that, yeah.
Which is quite different to how stand-up
Stand-up
comedy,
comedy
improv comedy
works, yes.
So, but I feel like the work of doing that,
Yeah.
because I've seen you do it, and I go, oh my fucking goodness! Somebody buy him a drink. It's something I don't know.
Someone
Because
please buy me a drink.
It is. Every time I see you do it, I want to go to your girlfriend and go, so that thing he's been asking you to
Do it.
tonight might be the night to do it, because I think he was like that thing.
Yeah,
The Terran.
Yeah,
I think he
that's
needs
the
that
one.
thing tonight.
It's
Today was rough.
It's very rough, but it's also, I think, as we go, you curate your audience and you culture the audience as you go, and then eventually that hopefully it's going to have a good payout.
You know what I think has been a gift though, real quick? I remember doing a show at Kesh Kesh once, well, not with Brian once.
Yeah.
And it was the audience was such a gift. And I was like, you know what?
Yeah.
When the audience is a gift like this, you don't even need the MC to do anything.
Yes.
And I remember I was telling this story and I was trying to get into my bit. And the guys at the back, sort of closer to the bar, were like talking and ordering and whatever. And literally the first maybe like 3 or 4 rows turned and were like, guys, shh. Fucking comedy showing on here. Yeah. She's telling us about pussies and pum-pums. Can you just keep it quiet?
Okay, I will listen.
And like it blew me over because I was like, oh, thank you so much. I love you. You don't know how much that means to me.
It is amazing when crowds do that.
And when they do it, then it's fantastic. Yeah, because they understand actually.
Yeah.
Pay attention to the person
what
with the
is
microphone.
happening on stage.
Yes.
The last show we did is what actually I got on stage and said we need to be able, and people just started clapping for that.
Yeah.
That people just started, and I was
What
like,
did you say?
that's
What was
amazing.
it?
I said, we need to understand that you've paid a lot of money to be here.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people who appreciate what's going on, and being on this stage is very difficult.
Yeah.
And so if you give us your attention,
Yeah.
that even if you don't laugh,
Yeah.
that is the best gift you can give us.
Yeah.
And people just started clapping.
But also please laugh.
Yeah, they should. They should. I always tell crowds.
We hope you make you laugh.
Every time I host an event, I always tell crowds, please drink. We're funnier when you're drunk.
Yes.
So that is always very important.
And we come with other benefits. We will get you laid.
Exactly.
You can repeat some of our jokes to your girl and she'll think you're the funniest person.
Think, unless she was at the show, because I think it's very dangerous for you, especially if you just start dating. I don't think you should take your girl.
What?
Yeah, I don't think you should take your girl to the thing.
Apana.
Listen. As men, you always want to be the funny guy. So if someone's on stage and they're being funnier, then the person who brought you to the thing, you're just like,
can I just send a PSA to the men who are listening to this? You need to tell your ego to take a seat.
Okay.
Buy him a fucking drink.
Yeah.
Tell him to enjoy the show.
Yes.
If you remind us something that we thought was really funny after, like you just even a one-liner.
Yeah.
I'll be like, oh my God, Eric, you're so funny. That's amazing.
Or not
you thought
take
that
note,
was funny too.
That's something you should remember. Let's change speeds now and go into.
We're always changing speeds, Eric.
Yeah,
come slowly.
Because
Emma,
we're already in a tab. We're already in a tab.
Okay, fine.
We're already in a tab.
Fine.
It's there's no more foreplay. It's just we're into it.
Are you kidding me?
No.
I'm a fat mama. We need a lot of foreplay.
This we'll figure it out as we go.
Grease up.
I'll try.
I'm just saying.
I will try. The question that I have here right now
I love making you uncomfortable.
You are making me blush.
Can I just tell the audience that your girlfriend's like sitting in the room?
She is sitting in the room.
She's watching me say all these things. Actually, fiance.
She is.
Hello.
Yeah.
There you go. Congratulations.
Off the market.
Off the market. Unfortunately. Wait, who are we talking about? You or her?
I think her.
The package.
I'm not like I don't. I always say like I'm punching above my weight.
Yeah.
So
you kind of are.
Yeah,
but
I am.
like she's nice.
She's amazing. She's amazing.
Yeah.
She's amazing. She's not a stand-up comic though.
I know. But she is a flautist.
How do we? She is. She plays. Yeah, flautist.
Yeah.
She plays for the Nairobi Orchestra.
Yeah.
She's the. I don't want to say fast chair. I don't know if that's the right word.
Yeah.
She's the fast chair flautist. Yeah, she's this fast chair flautist.
Yeah.
For
the Kenyan audience, she's flautist number 1.
Yes.
And if you don't know what flautist means, Google it.
Yeah. Anyway, how do we monetize this? How do we make laughter into money?
Hey, I was hoping you could tell me this. That's why I came here.
Mistake.
Listen. So I don't know. One of the, I guess, happy surprises for me with doing stand-up comedy is that it's opened up for me to do things like emceeing for gigs and stuff like that. And also for audiences that I normally would shy away from, like a mofo. For real. So the first sort of like proper well-paying MC gig that I did, we had done a comedy show at Madaiga, and I was just because I hadn't thought about who was going to be in the audience and what it was going to mean, I just did Shazz the way I did Shazz. So there I am talking about all kinds of things, and at the end this lady comes up and says, hey, there's this event for like petroleum something, money Arabs, money Arabs. And she's like, would you come and MC for this thing? And I'm like, well, you saw what I said.
All you had was money, Arabs.
Arabs, exactly. Because I'm like, money, people, that sort of thing. And so she was like, and I was like, you've seen my content. And she was like, yep, just come and be you. And so that was the first, like I could say, like recognizable money gig.
Arab money.
Listen,
Yeah.
get that oil money.
I don't know if I can get any oil money. I think I have cooking oil money. I don't know about like crude oil money.
Well, listen, I never thought it was an option until
Yeah.
it came. And then after that, a bunch of other gigs came my way,
Yeah.
which were fantastic. And a lot of them came, even if people weren't at the gig, they saw that I was doing a lot more.
You were doing a lot more.
Yes, public performance stuff. So maybe I'll say that's like maybe a way.
Yeah.
But as far as like I come and do like a stand-up gig and then I get shitloads of money,
Not yet.
I think there's definitely the potential for it. And I think especially like the local audience is like bored of like regular MCs.
Yes.
So I feel like we bring something different.
Something different,
And that
yeah.
could be a thing. And the answer is possibly gonna come to us in the lockdown.
I think it will. Which is actually the next question, which is
Yeah.
what's the place of comedy, especially stand-up comedy, during the plague? Like right now, I know there's lots of people who are doing lots of Zoom shows.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people who are creating content
Yeah.
in very many different ways. And a lot of people don't really know this, but most times comedy does come from a very dark place. And this is one of the darkest places we've been in as
Yeah.
a generation, I guess, or 2 generations or something like that.
Yeah.
What is your take on the plague with regards to comedy? Not from a scientific perspective or from an
for
interior
sure.
deco perspective.
I have nothing to say to that, scientifically especially. But I think, so here's 2 things that I think. One, especially in the early days of like lockdown and all of that, a lot of people were putting out a lot of content. And I think, and it's sort of whittled down.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things that it helped us do is people realize that there's actually work that goes into one, creating content, but also keeping people laughing and entertained and all of that. Isn't just, you know how you see people do things, you go, I can do that.
I can do that. That's
I can
easy.
do that shit. And now when they're making, at least I think they appreciate what goes into it. So and that's like a plus for us.
Yeah.
But I also think a lot of people who, and this is maybe my personal experience, but choosing to get into stand-up comedy from whatever dark place you were coming from, I think is such a triumph, and it's such a how can I say it? To be able to articulate your darkness, having come through it, or maybe still processing it, and put it in a way that people will laugh and it's palpable and it's wonderful, and people will learn something or at least be entertained, is I think it's probably one of the greatest gifts that we have out of stand-up comedy.
Yeah.
So this is actually the perfect time for stand-up comedy, because I think when people are when our bellies are full and our days are full doing things to impress people, we don't pay attention to certain things.
Yes.
But if you're hungry, your bellies aren't as full, life is not looking so great, you hang out with people like Eric who are telling you the world is coming to the end, but also I made this beautiful piece of furniture. But you make people laugh, or someone makes you laugh in that instance, I feel like honestly, I think we're like, what's that word they're giving to people? Like, okay, not exactly the same, so please don't come at me. Essential services.
Essential services.
We're an essential
I don't
service.
think it's a stretch for you to say we're providing essential services. It is very difficult to make people laugh. And I always say that you need to appreciate just how much effort that goes even into someone trying to make you laugh.
Yeah.
It may not work,
is.
but just the effort
It is. And also because stand-up comedy, you're putting yourself on the line, you're putting your stories, your body, your experiences. It's very naked, if I could say that. It's a very naked
every
experience.
time I'm doing any type of set on stage, my girlfriend is always bright pink. She's just like because of the things that I'm just saying. It's like I'm giving guys a front row seat. To
but I
because
think
I'm a cheerleader for foolishness, like, and I lead this cheer and the charge every single time.
Yeah.
So
I have a question for you though, because
that's amazing.
Yeah, well, because I look at you in the way, so I feel like I'm surrounded by many of the brightest minds. Okay, and without making you uncomfortable about this, I recognize that my sister and I were talking about this, because I was like, oh my God, do you know he's like a particle scientist? Is that what you are? Particle physicist.
Yes.
Exactly. I don't even know. Listen, it's all you.
Yeah.
Right? But in your life, you have been a particle physicist. To be fair, that makes you like part of like the 1 percentile of like bright people in the world. It's okay. You don't have to say it. I'm saying it, right? So don't be uncomfortable with it. But here is my question though. there's a part of that where you need to, the amount of like self, like yours, hands down, you will always be smarter than a lot of other people in the room. But you take on there's a lot of humility that comes with it, a lot of self-deprecation, a lot of that to make, I feel like you have to dumb down to like entertain the masses, like how do you do that and not just be like really egotistical? Because I would be such a fucking wanker. I'd just be like wanking all over people, like on stage. I'd be like, listen, you may not laugh, but I'm a lot smarter than y'all.
The challenge
by a million.
The challenge with that is that a lot of times you need to be able to connect with a crowd, and connecting with the crowd essentially means being able for them to be relatable to you. And for a lot of things is that, and I've mentioned this, is I'm not great at making friends. I'm very much a loner. I like spending time by myself.
Why aren't you great at making friends? I don't understand that.
Because it takes a lot of effort for me to make friends. It takes a lot of effort for me to make friends. I need to know what is okay to sort of speak to and not insult someone by mistake. So when
but if
writing,
you insult them, you just apologize and move on and explain where you're coming
unfortunately,
from.
I will not recognize as an insult. So I have to socially condition
myself. Are you on the
myself.
Spectrum?
I think my girlfriend says I am.
You are?
I think I am on the spectrum.
I have so many questions for her right now. When did you first notice? What if someone like this has a lover in bed? Please tell us in all 55 points.
I would say decent as a lover in bed. Decent.
Is that how you rate yourself?
Decent.
It's because you already have a mama. That's why you can say that. Because if you weren't, you'd be like, I got the biggest dick. I'm going to make all of you happy. Listen, this is my shit.
No, I don't even know if I make me happy. So
that is so sad. Oh my goodness. Cry me a river.
So you have to be able to be very relatable to people.
Yes.
And what that involves, without sounding like an absolute wanker, like you said, is, for instance, I have to write lots of my jokes.
Rewrite.
Yes, okay. Yes, because I think my biggest sounding board is my girlfriend, and she says, yeah, that's funny, but you need to understand that not everyone is firing off those cylinders.
Oh wow,
like, that's amazing, but you need to understand that. I have a joke about.
Are you just always erasing stuff then? Just like the dumbing down process.
My notebook.
Erase,
it's not really dumbing down, but
word,
it's relatable.
Erase.
I have a joke about malaria and how mosquitoes are not really the enemy because they are basically. It's like if an Uber driver brought a murderer to your doorstep,
yes,
and this murderer shot you,
yeah,
and then you blame the Uber driver.
Yeah,
it's like, no, I was just doing my job.
I love that. That's such a nerdy joke, but okay.
Yeah, but then my girlfriend was just like, that would work really well at like
the CDC annual conference.
Yeah, something like that. And so there's a lot of that's always happening. And especially when I'm doing comedy in Kenya right now, what is happening is I'm localizing a lot of content as well. I'm localizing content.
Good.
I'm like, okay, that's amazing, but I need to localize that.
Yeah.
That's amazing, but I need to localize that.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, it's very difficult because it's more about relatability for me rather than it is about I'm smarter than all these people. It's just like, I want these people to like me.
Yeah, of course. At the end of the day, right?
Yeah.
We're just there. We're just trying to make you happy. Like me.
Fondest memory from a comedy event?
2.
Yes.
May I?
Yes.
One I've already touched on because it was it's the night at Gecko that when I met you, because I was certain that I wasn't going to get back into comedy. And then I went out and I did a whole bunch of things like climb mountains, and then I came back and I did it, and no one knew me. No one knew I was going to do it, and they laughed. And that was like, okay, I wasn't wrong. It just kind of assured me in terms of that. It's so funny. You're also at the other event. So the last, it was one of my favorite ones when we did Blue Door last year.
Yes.
I just feel... And again, hard work to you as the MC, but I have to say as a comedian, and I don't know if you, and I hope that you heard this, and I hope I tell you enough, getting on stage to that crowd that had, like, you see, the thing is when the MC takes care of the crowd and you get up as a comedian and you find that everyone's just, they're kind of all lubed up and all fantastic and easy. That was for me, was such a rewarding experience. The audience, like, I literally, you want to say feed off the audience. I remember feeling that, like their energy was great and they gave it back to me and I felt, I can give them this. And I know I always get shit for going overtime. I went overtime. I feel like I'll always apologize. But really, I only went overtime like 3 minutes.
I must say that that's the strongest performance I've ever seen you put on.
Okay.
It was just like the house came down.
Yeah.
And even, I think it was Mamito who was following you.
Yeah.
She struggled. And that's saying a lot because this is
So
Mamito.
I feel like I got in when everything was perfect, and I was so nervous. And I remember not being able, later I sort of like caught up on what the other comedians
Yeah.
said. But I remember not being able to watch any of the other comedians. I was so nervous. And usually I'm miserable to be around before I get on stage. But I feel like it paid off.
It did pay off.
And it was like, thank you for that. That was really, I was like, oh, thank you. I'm a comedian.
I think one of the things I want to ask is about your other superpowers.
Oh, I have superpowers.
You do.
Dun, 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 dun.
You don't know this, but like the executive producer for this podcast is a huge fan boy.
Yeah, someone else that I've been stalking for a while before I met him.
He's amazing.
I feel like I've been stalking all of you. That's what I do.
So
I stalk skinny men in Kenya.
it is true. I should.
It's a fat girl fetish.
Yeah. So, fun art, fat girl art,
Fat art. Which people always say fart art. And I'm like, no.
That's why I didn't want to say it.
It's not
like,
gassy.
Yeah.
It's fat art.
So fat art.
Yeah.
There's a lot that you do on your Instagram page. I think that's where you're most robust, if I can say that. In person, but then also on Instagram. Please follow her. You give your
queendom.blog.
We're going to link this on all the descriptions and everything.
Yes.
But what is that about?
So fat art in particular, or my Instagram page?
Your Instagram page.
So it's one of those things that I was doing and like sharing with my family and my friends. And then I decided, no, I need to just do a thing and put it out there in public and just see if people respond to it, because I know what it means to me when I see another fat person who just celebrates the body that they're in and life and everything in it and doesn't necessarily conform to whatever the expectations are.
Yeah.
So for me, like fat art, for example, was me going, most of the time when you see like fat people in comedy, in art, and whatever being represented, usually it's really disparaging.
It is.
It's kind of, for me, it can be kind of hurtful. Sometimes it's like, we're always the butt of a certain joke, double butt for that, dimply and cellulite. But I feel like, okay, fine, cool, whatever. But I also think that we are beautiful, and I feel like fat bodies are fantastic and they can be artistic, and there's different people out there who actually celebrate the body that I've lived in. And I always say this, I've been fat all my life, so I don't feel like this is not like a new thing I'm coming into, I feel like I've done the work and I continue to do the work. And I know what it did for me to see fat people who embrace their bodies and just put them out on blast without it, and not necessarily in the way that we are told to do it. So cover up, wear longer things, and I'm very lucky, like my family, my folks or whatever were kind of understanding of who I was. So I was a girl who was always like cutting up my dresses and like cinching them more and more cleavage and shorter this and whatever, because I'm like, no, I don't, just because it's bigger and there's more of it doesn't mean I want to hide it. I don't care what people say, I'm not wearing a tent. So when I realized that other people thought like I think, don't necessarily want to change how we are. And I know what that did for me. So then I started, initially I used to post like other people's pictures only. And then I met a couple of photographers who were fucking heaven to work with. And then I was like, no, I'm going to put my own body out as much as possible. I may run for political, office, so there's not going to be any beaver shots, or anything. But with a fat body, no, we have fupas. There's no beaver shots.
It's fine.
Right? Just like hangs in there. But really, I was like, that's what I'm going to do. So that's kind of what the page is about. And that's sort of like the shallow end version of it. But really, really, it's about I wanted to create a space that was mine. Where I put things that I felt were a celebration of who I am, the body that I live in, and not always being the butt of the joke. I feel like fat jokes are like easy.
They're too. I love it when we're doing like when we're roasting each other at Blues. And you're always like, "Where's the fat joke?" Like, this is too easy. Come on, guys, give me the good stuff.
Any kid can do that.
And that is what I'd say basically makes it amazing. Now, I want to say the page is not just only about that. I think there's a lot of things in terms of empowering people, like sexually. allowing people to appreciate who they are and what they are in whatever way that they want to be. And above that, I think one of the things I love about, and you and I connect on this on so many different levels, is food.
Yes,
there's
of
always
course.
food on your page.
Shimon.
I think you and I, we're always just talking. Like sometimes we just go like texting. It's like pork.
Yes.
So good. Yeah, amazing. So
I still dream about that dinner you made for me and my sisters.
yeah, it was amazing.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
all my
if
wet
this
dreams.
pandemic was not on, we should do another one soon enough.
Why is the pandemic the reason that we can sit like across each other? You have a big ass house. I can sit on that corner. Rachel.
Then
like,
you can serve food with like I don't know.
Yeah.
Like massive like long. Fork.
Listen, we're sitting relatively close to each other, and these are COVID times.
These are COVID times.
Yes.
I want to wind this down by asking a question that I always
don't make
ask.
me go.
I
was
will make you
enjoying
go
this
because
so
then there's a
much.
curfew as well.
Yes.
Question is, what are you reading right now? What are you watching? And who are you listening to?
Okay. What I'm not watching is the news.
Okay, that's
for the
good.
most part.
Yeah.
I feel like that's been like an active thing for me not to get into. I've been listening to, so for some reason I've just been really feeling, so I sang in a jazz band maybe 10 years ago. And so I've just been going back to a lot of the Sarah Vaughns and the Billie Holidays and of course Etta and Ella, all of those sort of like all the wonderful jazz standard ladies.
that's
I've
nice.
been in that mood because it's mellow but not too, okay, Billie is a little hard to sit in for too long, but a lot of that. What have I been reading? So a friend of mine wrote like a little short story, a little compilation, anthology of like stories on love and romance in Kenya or in the African continent.
Yeah.
And I love that because she's taking a very, there's a lot of romance that's sort of very Western centric.
It's very, yeah.
Yes,
So
and
she's looking at it from a localized
I love it. I
perspective.
love those stories.
Yeah.
And so she's written a book, and her name is Emma Tinje, Tinge, J-E. And so I'm reading that right now.
Okay.
I'm
the
reading
name
lots of like
the anthology?
nostalgia and other stories.
Nostalgia and other stories, guys. If you can, please go out and
Yeah,
get it. I don't
yeah,
know
yeah.
if it's available
I'll
on
give you the
Kindle.
link. Yes.
We're going to put a link down here. It's not sponsored or anything, but then
We're just plugging my girl.
We're plugging in everyone.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I've been reading a lot of stuff that's like happy stuff, but also a lot of the risk of sounding very woo-woo. A lot of stuff about just like I'd say spiritual development. Reading a lot about manifestation and how we can change our experience of this particular time.
Yeah.
So maybe not so much books, but more like online resources and having those conversations. I feel like it's been fantastic.
Okay.
So that's kind of what I've been reading.
Watching.
You know what's funny? I don't really know.
Yeah.
So I did watch, what's that one that's on Netflix?
There's a lot on Netflix.
I know. The first episode is this drug episode. What is it? Oh my God. It's a trippy one. They sort of take conversations with this psychologist and this Midnight Gospel. Thank you.
Yeah.
So
Midnight Gospel. We
Midnight
just had
Gospel.
like someone help out from the
Thank
back.
you,
That's the
Nams.
executive
You're
producer.
the best. You're the best.
Nabster is the best.
He is.
Unfortunately, we have to bring this
He's
conversation
making me
to
go.
an end.
Guys, don't let him make me go.
Thank you
I
so
wanna be
very
here.
much. This has been the podcast that speaks to creatives like Shaz. We have not even touched the
I feel like
surface
you
with
rushed
Shaz.
me through that.
I did rush you through that because there is a curfew of sorts.
Fuck the curfew.
But also...
I'm with my sister. She's light skinned. She's pretty. Do you know how many, honestly, true story, how many cops and things, like Annie can cry at the drop of a hat. So if we're in trouble and she's driving, I'm like, Annie, please cry. And she does. And I swear to God, it works all the time. She's like, I found a problem. Listen, I'm good. Let's do this. Let's keep doing this.
The executive producer for this
taking me
show
away.
has been Nabster Chege Joseph, also known as Mbuguatis. The show director is none other than Wanjira Gateri Humphrey. We'd want to thank our sound engineer, Mr. Caleb Onyach, also known as the DJ OCS.
Onyach!
Amazing guys. We are Sticks and Stones. That's who produced this particular podcast. We do various things. We're a creative collective. During these difficult times, it is difficult for creatives to actually earn a living. So support all creatives that
Yes.
you see out there. please make sure that you look after each other. We do have a link to our Patreon page down somewhere there. So if you feel generous, feel like dropping a lot of money, Arab money actually, into the
Give me that
Patreon
oil
page.
money.
And we will get to you next time. Shaz, it's been amazing having you.
Thank you for having me.
It always feels like every time I sit with you, I don't have enough time. I don't have.
Oh my
enough
God, I enjoy this so much. I did an interview earlier last week, and I was like, this is going on for, well, I can't say that.
Yeah. I think we'll stop there. Thank you very much, and we'll see you next time.